Curtis, Cumberland. And, you know, so I grew up in Howard County, and I have 5 brothers and sisters down there. And most of them are in Carroll or Howard County still. One in North Carolina, my sister Camilla. But we kind of grew up on a small 25-acre farm that my dad made hay, and we had 4-H animals and horses, and nothing really substantial, but you know, for us it seemed like a big farm. And that's a really good community down there in Woodbine. A lot of dairy farmers, a lot of big farm families down there, and so that's kind of where we grew up. Went to all Howard County schools, and then ended up kind of migrating up into Carroll County. And I lived in Carroll County for about 3 or 4 years before we found this farm. So that's kind of how we ended up here. These are our mama cows, and we got a couple purebred Wagyus in here. I had mentioned I bought some Wagyu cows, purebred cows, a couple, 2 steers, 2 cows, and a heifer from a guy down in Virginia who was kind of selling out of them. And so we have a couple purebred Wagyu yearlings, 1 steer actually. We have 1 steer that's a Wagyu purebred, and then we have a bunch of Wagyu crosses that we cross with our Angus heifers. And so we're kind of getting used to the Wagyu cows. They have a different attitude. I would say they're a little more ornery than the Angus. My wife tends to name them all.
Oh, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, she won't name the steers, but she'll name the cows. That's our he's about a 1.5-year old Wagyu steer.
So he looks different.
Yeah, he's a little thinner. They have kind of a dairy build to them. And you can see he's a little high-headed, and he's a little kind of, you know, very sketchy. As opposed to some of these girls that are pretty tame.
Except for the stranger.
Yeah. And these guys are all ready to calf. You can see her, she's kind of even bagging up a little bit. And they're not too far off. They're just looking for shade here today, hiding from the flies and the sun. I'm looking for a Lenny there, 188. She's like a pet in there, and she's the only girl that didn't get pregnant. And I think just because she was the last one to calve last year, we just didn't give her enough time to start cycling, so she didn't get pregnant. And these whiteface cows, this one is 3/4 Wagyu, the brindle colored one, and the black and white one, she is a 1/4 Wagyu mama cow. So she had a 3/4 calf last year, and so they're, you know, that part of it is growing. It takes years really to develop to go from an Angus to then you would have an F1 calf, and then the following year, well, if that was a heifer and that calf was bred, or that heifer was bred and had another heifer, you'd have an F2. And I believe as you go on, right, so your Wagyu, as you keep breeding to a Wagyu bull, your Wagyu bloodline increases until I think you're up to F3. Don't quote me on these numbers. I did know them, but I think once you're at 87% Wagyu, they consider it a purebred at that time. But you know, you have to be part of the Wagyu Association, and it's a lot to go through. But these girls are all pretty happy. They're just waiting for the sun to go down so they can start eating grass again, and because we're keeping them in here, they're eating this grass down So we're feeding them hay now. And we keep them in this pasture. Lenny, we keep them in this pasture because it's close to our tub and our chute. In case they need help, we can get them into it. Yeah, this is a Lenny, and she's pretty friendly cow.
Do you do anything for flies?
For flies, we do. We treat them when we bring them into the chute, and some of my mineral feeders have curtains on them to keep them off their eyes. But it's like a losing battle. The flies are so hard to deal with. So hopefully soon we'll have some nice cool air. It'll stop these flies.
Now I'm seeing horn nubbies.
Yeah, those are on the Wagyus.
Okay.
So that's my Bessie, purebred Wagyu cow there, 88. She is purebred, and she's been dehorned. And then there's another Wagyu in here. I don't see her. She's not quite as friendly. Bessie's a little older. She's about an 8-year-old cow, but she does okay. Not real mean. I say that, but you really can't trust any of them.
Nope.
100%, because I've been jumped on by these cows before. As docile as they seem, I've been in the pasture, and they flat out jump right on top of me, and they could really hurt you. So you really can't trust them, especially around calving time.
I mean, they are wild animals.
They are.
Not wild animals, but it's like anything else.
Yeah. And when you have to come in here after they've had a calf and pull the calf away from them, tag it, and check it, they can get kind of aggressive. So we try to get...
Gets a little angry.
Yeah.
Lantern fly.
Yeah. We try to get some help, get the golf cart between the cow, or the gator between the cow and the calf, and then we can tag the calf. And what is it with the lantern flies? They always want to crawl like on your neck.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So that's the mama herd. And we just moved them into this pasture a couple days ago. Albie, our horse, had the whole pasture to himself, but we kind of split him off there at the water, so he's on a smaller piece. He's too fat on grass already, so he didn't eat it all. But there's still a fair amount of grass in here, enough to keep these guys busy, and we'll keep hay in front of them.
So I know with my family, they divide up the pastures into cells. Do you do any of that?
So each paddock into cells?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've tried that, and it really all depends on how big the paddock is. Where this one's just not big enough for it, right? And if I have the whole herd together, it'd be about 40. Right now, the whole herd is about 44 animals, and so this is enough for them for one day, and they'll eat it down. And I try to get them, normally I would get them off this grass after it gets, 6 inches tall and they've trampled it and they've eaten it, and it just helps it come back, and it doesn't expose bare ground, because the more we expose dirt, the harder it is for that ground to recover. I mean, they say Mother Nature is bashful. She wants to be covered up. So anytime you expose dirt, it'll grow a weed on it to cover it up.
Oh, yeah.
So we haven't been rotating or dividing up our paddocks, because we have 14 paddocks. We pretty much rotate them in, and the bigger ones we can keep them in for 2 days. we can keep them in the bigger paddocks for 2 days. And then during the summer and the growing season, we can kind of rotate them around and come back to it in 28 days. We can put them back in that field. And if we've had good growing, then the grass is recovered and there's plenty of them for them to eat again. If it hasn't, like this summer, we had kind of a drought, we have to start feeding them hay during the summer just to keep them fed and keep them as, you know, as much calories into them as we can get into them.
Well, I'm seeing, because I know you said that you didn't build the fencing, it was already here, which is a good thing for you that you didn't have to worry about that part. But I'm seeing alleyways and runs, and
yeah,
so I'm guessing for the most part it's all connected.
It is, and it's a well-designed system. That I didn't know the manager that kind of designed this fencing system. I don't think it was the owner of the farm. This was kind of his hobby farm, and he paid people to run it. But they did a good job designing the fencing system. So I can move alone, I can move cows from one end of the farm all the way to the other end of the farm to the furthest pastures. And all through the alleys, the gating, the driveway up here becomes an alley. And even all the way to the back of the farm, they have alleyways to get them to our kind of our winter pastures. And they had been grazing the long field here where the runway is when they were operating it, because there's perimeter fencing all around the other side of it, but it's in such disrepair. We don't use it, and we don't want to graze the cows out across the runway anyway. So that's just our hay field and runway basically for the airplane. But you know, there's a lot of I think engineering that goes into gates. With gates, the way they'll open and close off one side of a lane and swing the other way and close off another lane. So we've got a lot of that going on up there at the other end of the farm, which it's not difficult, but it had to have a lot of thought, had to go into it. And good thing is you can do it alone. I can move cows across this farm by myself. Main time that I need help is when we start sorting cows, when we have to sort out mamas from babies or steers from the mama cows. That's where it takes 2 or 3 people. And we'll go up here to this end of the farm up there where I have some sorting pens, and you can get a look at that. It's a good, you know, it's a good area to, and that was all installed for me up there. So really we were fortunate to have all this infrastructure already in place.
Got lucky on that part.
Yeah, and pressurized water to all these paddocks with automatic waters. I mean, there's a lot of structure, a lot of infrastructure out here.
Well, you said that you were working with Frederick County
Conservation Office. Yeah.
Odds are they probably worked with them too.
They did. That's right. They worked with them on fencing, maybe the watering system, because I have a lot of wells on this farm, and there's a whole well system up there that feeds all the waters on that end of the farm, and then the waters in these pastures are fed from the main well down by the house. And so there's just a lot of work went into that, a lot of time, a lot of money. We bought this farm 3 years ago. We became the owners of Willows Farm. Willows Farm was established the name was established in like 1820. So we kept the name, and I don't know if that's completely true. The farm was established in 1820 as a farm. When the name Willows came along, I don't know, but all the Willows trees, I'm sure, had something to do with that. So we had looked for a farm for 7 or 8 years and happened to find this one. It came to us through the MLS, but we kind of looked at it and glanced over it and said it's out of our reach. There's just no way that we can afford that. And so we kept going back to it and looking at it again and again, and eventually kind of started talking with the owner and found a way to make it happen. So we ended up getting it 3 years ago, and we had not really planned on being beef farmers, but as it came to fruition, we decided that we would go ahead and give that a shot, since this farm was already set up for beef handling, which made it a lot easier for us. And we were interested in the grass finished beef just because of the health benefits of it. And I had a lot of health problems when I was in my late 20s and almost died of a rare disease, and still they don't know where that came from. There's really no explanation for it. So we were interested in healthier food, eating healthier, because we do believe that our health is based on the food that we eat. And I think the food system in the United States is can be questionable. So I know you can't grow all your own food, but the more you can get naturally or locally, the better. So wherever you buy your food, buy it locally. So that kind of drug us into this, and then we started raising beef probably 6 months after we got here. But it's a long process to get beef and get them growing and develop a cow-calf operation. So we started right away buying some local heifers and steers from a local farmer that has a good production and a good operation locally here. And then a year later, we were able to breed those cows, and 9 months after that, we ended up having our first crop of calves born on this farm. So that was last fall. So that would have been of 23, our calves of 23. And so April of 22, I believe April of 23, we started selling beef and kind of opened Willows Farm Beef. And that's been going pretty well since we opened it. I think we've processed probably 22, 24 cows or steers since we opened Willows Farm Beef. And that's growing, and we've got a good customer base, and that's continuing to grow. But none of this gets done without the whole family involved. So without my wife helping me, my daughter Caitlin, my daughter Becca, and my son Lee, without all their help, really I couldn't do it all, because it's too much work, it's too much of an operation, and they all help out. They all have their own busy lives. They're either their parents, they have their own businesses, and when I need help, though, they come and help, and that makes it all worthwhile, really, having the family involved in this, and being able to do it with your kids and your family. And I have a pretty big extended family. I have 5 brothers and sisters, and they're all interested in it, and they all like this type of thing. So that's kind of how we acquired the farm, and we operate the farm, and we're moving towards more of a Wagyu Angus crossbreed. So we're breeding and have bred initially our heifers and now our cows to a Wagyu bull, and we're introducing that Wagyu bloodline into our Angus bloodline, and we think that is producing just a better tasting and a better marbling in the beef. We've processed a few full-blood Wagyus that have been 100% grass finished, and they have been just the best beef we have eaten at all. I mean, our Angus beef is great, and we get huge reviews and great feedback on that. But so we're kind of experimenting with the Wagyu, and so we had bought a Wagyu young steer, raised it, finished it on grass, butchered it for our own family, and we've been eating that and giving it away and having people try it, and it's just been the best beef we've ever had. So we believe that's going to create a really good product for our clients to bring that Wagyu beef into it. And a lot of people have heard of Wagyu beef. It's, Japanese means Japanese cow. Wagyu means Japanese cow. And the Wagyu that they grow in Japan or raise in Japan is certainly a different level of Wagyu beef. It's so rich in fat that you can only eat small amounts of it. Ours tends to be just like an Angus with a slightly different flavor profile and a little better marbling in the beef, and so we think that's going to work well. So that's kind of the plan for the beef farm and how we're going to continue doing it. And we're learning as we go. So the whole farming industry takes practice. It takes learning and failure.
Trial and error.
Trial and error. And we are learning all the time. And I think we're getting better at it as we do it, like we should, right? So we're getting better at it, and we're producing a better product the more we do it, the longer we do it. I think that the beef barn that we're building, it's a 14,000 square foot facility, is going to allow us to scale it a little bit more, and it's going to allow us to feed better and have better feeding methods of feeding our cows, keeping them more comfortable. Like I was telling you, if we can keep them bedded in comfortable bedding through the winter, they're more likely to lay down and rest, and that just keeps them low stressed, so they don't spend energy standing outside where they're often standing in mud or manure during the winter eating around a hay ring. So I think that's going to produce a better, just a better product as well. And it's never one thing that does it. It's all a whole bunch of little tiny things that you kind of have to bring together and all this to get the best product you can. We think it's doing really well in the fields because we rotate our cows every day or every other day to new grass. And then in the winter, when our pastures take a beating and we can't rotate our cows, then we're feeding them hay every day. So we may walk these guys right up there, and I'm going to open a gate and let them in behind the barn there to that corral, and that way they're going to find more shade up there, because I can see them all hiding behind this tree for shade.
The one tree.
Yeah, I know. In the morning they're over there where that dirt spot is. Is that my camper? No, that's a horse trailer.
Might as well be.
That's a nice machine.
The AC unit on top.
Yeah. All right. So these are our steers that are separated out. There's one cow in here. Actually, it's a heifer. That's a first-year heifer. That's bred. That's her there with the horns on her. She's a purebred Wagyu. And she slipped through when we were sorting them, so we got to get her out of here. She's probably going to calve this month, and she's kind of a purebred, so she's kind of would be she's got a bit of a dairy look to her, and she's bred to a Wagyu bull. Mr. Magoo is the sire of all these little guys are from Mr. Magoo, and this is Indy. Hey, buddy. So Indy is our Jersey steer. We're going to try some Jersey meat this year. And Indy is like a golden retriever. Aren't you, buddy? So he's very, very friendly and just a great disposition. And we try not to get too friendly with him because he's gonna be food on the table eventually. But it's nice and when cows are this friendly. Only problem is they're not scared from you when you're moving them and they don't want to move. Like I have to push on him to get him to move and he still doesn't want to move. He just follows you around. So that's the only disadvantage of having a friendly cow. But he is, he's about 2 now, and you can see he's just a big boy, tall, but very docile.
Won't be eating my shoestrings.
So so my friends that are farmers, beef farmers around here, tell me that every farmer they know that was ever killed by a bull, it was a Jersey bull.
Oh,
so apparently the Jersey bulls are very aggressive. Go on. And
all right, Indy.
yeah, I told you. So we're gonna let them in down here. These bigger cows, this is about a 18-month-old steer, and I think this is a two-year-old steer here that are just Angus. There might be a little limousine in some of those. And because I believe that the guy I'm buying steers from, that I have been buying them from, I think he has limousine crossed into his. Indy. He's a little aggressive with the other cows, isn't he? I think he is the boss cow of this herd. Until I put him in with the mamas, he is like the boss cow. Even though he's the friendliest one. Let's keep going. He's going to be rubbing on us. So I'll let them in up here because they can get behind the barn for some more shade. It's getting a little warm. Come on! Come on! So often when I call them, they'll just all come. And yep, see, they know that when I call them, I'm generally moving them to the next pasture, and they're gonna get fresh grass. And there's a little bit of grass in here for them to eat.
That was a steep one. That wasn't.
Come on, Indy. What are you doing? Come on! We'll just come up here and stand by this gate. We'll let them in here into the shade. And there's a water in here. A little bit of grass they haven't eaten. And they'll find shade. But we use these mostly as our sorting pens because there's 3 little pens here. It's good to sort in. And then over there I have 2 little sorting pens and kind of a loading chute. So when we load them in and out, we back our trailer into a chute over there and load them through there. I'm going to go ahead and fill this bucket up with water while we're here. Oh, it's got water in it. I see, buddy. Let's dump this. Get some fresh water.
Got water down there.
Yeah, there's water there too. Oh, Indy.
So whose idea was it to get a Jersey?
Caitlin's. They buy a lot of whole milk from a Jersey farm locally, a creamery. And, you know, we were reading a lot about Jersey beef. A lot of people really like Jersey beef, like it is very close to Wagyu beef. So, kind of an experiment, you know. Jersey steer calves or bull calves are pretty inexpensive. And we figured we'd try it out. And so, we'll see how it is. And it'll be a grass finished calf, so it'd be kind of an interesting experiment. We were going to put Indy in with Albie because Albie's kind of lonely, the horse by himself. And I think that Indy would do well with him to keep him company.
And you were saying you have fescue, orchard grass, foxtail, some clover.
Yeah.
Anything else mixed in there that you know of?
I think there's a little Lespedeza in there, and there's a little bit of alfalfa in these pastures. And then there's, you know, there's some other grasses in there that I just can't identify. And then there's, yeah, then there's a lot of weeds, right? And the cows will eat some of these weeds. It's surprising. They go after this, not this pigweed, but there's another weed that'll grow around where they have eaten last year and they've created a big manure area. And these weeds come up. I don't know what the name of that weed is, but that'll come up and the cows will destroy that as soon as they come in the field. And it's a kind of a terrible weed too. All right, guys, let me get it turned off.
I mean, obviously, you've only been doing this for a couple years now.
Yeah.
Have you thought about marketing the steers to local 4-H'ers or anything like that?
No, because we're not raising show calves that 4-H'ers are looking for. And I have a whole problem with the whole 4-H program. It's a good program teaching kids a good skill, and it's, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem I have with it is the judging that goes on in the 4-H world. They're not judging on carcasses. They're judging on the hoof, the presentation of the calf, and that is not teaching. I don't even know if I should get on this soapbox. That's not teaching the young 4-H'er how to raise a quality beef that'll grade prime, right? So those calves that generally win grand champion or do really well in the show ring do not grade well most of the time when the animal's butchered and the meat is graded. So there is some programs going on, and there's some good people behind doing carcass grading and trying to enter that into the 4-H world, which I think would be a much better skill for 4-H'ers to acquire, is how to raise a prime graded beef. You know, now they leave 4-H with a skill that they could put to use, you know, in the real beef world. Because, I mean, there's a show ring, a national show ring of kids that show beef nationally and around the country, you know, and it's a big business, but it's a very small percentage compared to the kids that go out and maybe do agriculture and you know, raise actually beef as a living, or, you know, a side living. It's hard to make a living doing it.
When I showed my first year into it, I mentioned on one of the other farm series, either with my dad or with my uncle, that there was a cow that died. My grandfather said, whoever can go out and catch the steer can have it. So that was one of my first show steers. We didn't win, but it graded out better than everybody else because it was either on grass or feed and bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it was only like 950. So he was kind of not really a runt, but I guess not having mom's milk kind of stunning him a little bit.
Yeah.
But he was, I don't remember what he graded. I mean, this was 96 or something like that. But I know that he graded out better than everybody else did.
Is that right? Yeah.
They went to that butcher shop.
Right. But he wasn't a champion in the show ring.
That is correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I didn't know much about it when I was in 4-H, and I showed cows and I showed steers in 4-H, and I didn't know much about it, and I didn't know anything about grading beef. So I think that there's a lot more to be learned, and I think they should put more emphasis on that than they do right now. I mean, you know, that's just my personal thoughts about it. I think they should walk away with a better skill than how to make a cow look beautiful in the show ring, you know. And while they raise good, healthy animals, and they are fat, I'll give them that. They feed them plenty of high-calorie food. They're fat. They make my cows look skinny, but does the beef grade. And so we're working towards getting our beef to grade prime, and I think that's what our Wagyu bloodline is going to do, is going to bring more of a prime grading beef into it. Now, they won't be huge cuts because Wagyu just aren't giant carcasses like an Angus is a big carcass cow. So
or a Jersey.
Or a Jersey.
No, he's going to dress out.
Yeah, he's going to dress big, but he's still not, you know, Angus is an incredible carcass, right? It is meaty. It is just designed to produce a big carcass. And, you know, they do a great job with them. So our key thing is just to promote healthier beef and 100% grass finished beef. That's just better for us. And I think we're doing it. And so we'll get better at it. The more we do it, the better we'll get at it. And
yeah, you're only on what, year 2?
Yeah,
3?
Year 2 of selling beef, and really year 3 of of owning beef on this farm. And like I said before, that ag building, that's going to help our product get better. It's going to help us raise more beef and I think a higher grading beef.
Well, once it gets finished, maybe we'll have to come back and do a follow-up.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the end plan is to put riprap all the way around this, so you don't have to just get the mower so close to it, take care of all these tall weeds and everything around it. But we haven't got to that yet. So this was kind of all rebuilt around here. And at the time we got it, you couldn't even walk across this dam. It was just covered in trees. And this was all covered in trees. You couldn't even get to it. So we kind of ripped it all down, put a new pipe in, a new pipe through the dam, and then rebuilt kind of an inlet. And the water's down about 1 inch right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty dry.
Yeah,
so
it's
dry.
very dry. In here where we keep our meat, we've got about 6 freezers in there. Farm office, freezer room, workshop, tractor workshop. And then this is all like the cow handling area, a tub, a head
Squeeze.
a head gate, yeah, and a scale there. And then inside the bank barn, the old bank barn, this barn burned down, I think in the 60s. They put this conventional top on it. We've got stalls in there that are good stalls, and it's relatively clean. Everybody on?
Yep.
This is just my workshop. So this is an RV4, which is a kit-built airplane. That's
I guess I'm on the wrong side.
it's about 90% done. I've got the wings in the other room. And then it's kind of being disassembled now for paint. and that's my paint booth back there. And so I work on this when we have time. And this is kind of a tandem seated aircraft. This is one of Van's aircraft. It's called a Vans, V-A-N-S RV4. Really popular model. It was his second generation of his kits. And I think this came out probably in the 80s. And so this comes as a kit, like a model airplane, and then you do all the drilling, the riveting, and the assembly of it. And there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 hours of work in this plane and in the wings that are in another building. And now it gets disassembled and painted, and then all the fit and finish happens, and then reassembled. And then I will fly this right out of the farm here. When I take the first flight in this plane, it'll be right out of the farm. And
so it's safe to say that you have your pilot's license.
Yes, right. So right, I'm a pilot and have been a pilot for since I was like 28 years old, and I'm 59 now. So we've been flying, and we're pretty active. And this is about the third or fourth airplane that I've been involved in building. And so we built some other airplanes, and they're like show planes, basically, that it's like owning a hot rod, and you take them to air shows. The biggest one in Wisconsin, Oshkosh, most people have heard of that, and show them there. And they are mostly competition aerobatic planes, and but we treat them like show planes. So when we bought the farm, I had all this equipment, lathes and milling machines and tons of tooling that I had to have somewhere to put when we bought the farm. And so this was an open shed, and I had to finish it, close it in, get a concrete floor in here, insulate it, get it conditioned so I could move all my tools into this. And so anyway, this is where all the magic happens, I like to say. But what happens is things get pushed back, and I keep bringing in whatever equipment to work on, or to build, or parts for the house to work on, or projects for the kids, or tractors, or whatever. So, well,
at least with the style of an airplane, it is probably pretty easy to move around.
It is pretty easy to move out of the way. It doesn't weigh much. It's on wheels now, so I can move it pretty quick, and I can handle most of it alone. I don't need two people to move parts, or as I'm painting it, it's all kind of disassembled. The tail will come off, the wings are off of it, obviously, and so all that's happening now. So that's what's happening while we're not farming.
You're always farming, though. That's the whole thing.
That's true. We're always farming. It was an open building when we moved here, and we closed it in and poured a floor and moved all our tools to it.
Got a horse.
That's Caitlin's horse. That's Albie. These are our mama cows here. There's a couple steers in there with them that we didn't get sorted out. Most of them are mama cows. And on the south end here, there's about 5 paddocks in here of 4 and 5 acres each. And all of these have water in them for the cows. Spring-fed waters catch all of these paddocks down here. And this over here is mainly our hay field. We call that the long field.
And the landing strip.
And the landing strip.
I found it last night.
Right,
After I was making sure that there wasn't any, what are those things called? No TAMs and all that kind of stuff. And nothing was going on. Could fly today.
No TFRs.
Yeah. I just know I gotta go look for it. I can't ever remember the label.
Yeah, this is 67 MD on the charts, and 67 MD Willows Landing. And so this probably will thing of interest. This is our new cattle barn that we're building right now. And so we're working with the Frederick Conservation Office to build this building. And it is it's about 180 by 80 feet of concrete. And almost all of that's under roof, some 14,000 feet. Go around this side of it. I didn't bring your bike, I know.
It's like a lot of red clay.
Yeah, a lot of shale, a lot of red clay. So we're in the process of bringing water and power up here now. Here's my electric trench that's going to go to the bottom, and then I've got a water trench going back down to where my shop is. This will be a feed alley on this side, and then separate ways to separate cattle on the other bays there, and then manure storage on the very far end, and then I'm able to keep all my hay over there. That's all the hay we made this year. And
The round bales there?
yeah, the round bales and square bales. And then on the other side of the hanger, I've got 150 high moisture bales we made, which will really be my feed. A lot of this will be bedding. You know, we'll put it out as bedding, and cows will eat it, and they'll bed down in it and trample it. And
some of the dairy guys I see are going to sand.
sand, really. I've seen sawdust. I haven't seen them using sand, but I could see how they might want to do that. As long as it's, the more comfort you can give the cows where they have good bedding and they lay down, it's just better for them as far as using up energy of standing. If they're standing in mud and manure, they won't lay down as much. There'll be 4 or 5 hours a day that they'll stand longer. And so the more we can get them comfortable and cool in here in the summer and in the winter, mainly this is for winter time, and calving, we'll calve in here too. The more we do that, the better the cows gain weight. And the big thing with Frederick County is we don't create these big manure spots outside. That water runs on and that runs off and puts nitrates into the streams, and basically eventually it gets to the bay, and it is mostly a Save the Bay program is what they're doing. But we think this will work pretty good. It's close to our hay storage. It's up here. There's always a breeze up here. It should keep the building kind of cool in the summertime. We think that'll work pretty well. And in the wintertime, this time of year, like we're getting ready to calve next month, so that'll work really good for calving. And we would contain them. We thought we'd be calving. What do you got? We thought we'd be calving in the barn, but we're about 2 or 3 weeks behind on it right now. So we may catch the end of calving season in here. Over there on that hill, that's kind of the land this farm used to own, where those lots are over there. And interesting enough, I came out here with a client to look at one of those lots over there, and stood over there with them and said, I told him, I said, yeah, these are beautiful lots. If you guys don't buy this lot, I'm going to buy it. And then 3 years later, we ended up buying this farm, and I didn't even realize I was at the same place until I met them. And I said, wait a minute, I looked at building your house for you. They ended up building something else. Funny.
You're stuck with them as a neighbor.
Yeah. They're nice people, though. Really good neighbors. So that's our hanger. That's our winter feed there. And we have about 28 acres of woods here on this farm. And in the woods there we have another hip campsite. I think we've got campers coming to it today. They were texting me saying they'd be here around 3. And then these are kind of like the South 40 pasture. That little lot up there where that RV is parked, that's another lot that we have here. And then there's a kind of a finger of these farms that comes down in here. And these are my Mennonite neighbors, really nice people, really great neighbors.
Probably cook pretty good.
Yeah. I rent that lot out to a long-term social worker up there. These are basically kind of 2 of our main hay fields here, but pretty land back here. It goes all the way out over there, all the way out to Kemar Road. Our neighbor here, Brendan, had his barn struck by lightning about a month ago, and the other day they rebuilt that. They're Mennonites, they're in the pole building business. So they put that barn up, Caitlin, in one day.
Oh my God.
Like on Thursday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And
Wow. How many died?
I don't know. He must have had a crew there, because on Wednesday night he had post holes dug all the way around it, and I came back Thursday afternoon, and that's what it was, just like that. Roof half on it, siding half on it, windows in it.
Well, that's your trade.
Yeah.
Yep.
And everybody knows what they're doing.
I have a feeling the community kind of pulled together since his barn burned down. I think the church kind of comes together and they all show up on something like that, and he gets a lot of help. So I'm assuming it had to have, you had to have 10 guys there to put that thing up in a day like that. But these fields, that's about 22 acres over there, and this is about 10 acres here. And then we've got about 12 acres up there where that RV is parked up on that. And then these 2 little farms kind of come down in like a finger in between our land. So
It's a different type of layout.
it is.
I'm sure that happened a long time ago, though.
Yeah, we're not sure how this part was acquired. I think a piece of this was acquired from another farm. Or they sold off parts of that farm. It's hard to say. Because where the new barn is over there, I mean, he had an old bank barn there, which had to be an old dairy barn, and probably owned a lot of this land. So, but these are good fields, really good hay fields. You all ready?
Already.
What kind of grass you got?
So this is orchard grass and fescue.
Thanks.
And it's got a bunch of clover coming up in it. Foxtail in the summer.
What's your main, since it's all grass fed,
Yeah,
so it's all orchard grass, fescue.
pretty much. All orchard grass and fescue.
Your fescue must taste better than our fescue.
Yeah, the cows eat it. They eat it up. And and a lot of these pastures have fescue in them. And, the cows graze it all summer. It's a strong grass.
quote me on the inches, but my uncle dug out his foundation, or they had somebody come in and dig out his foundation. And they had a 31-inch roof on a fescue.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was always fescue, so
Yeah.
the entire farm.
As much as you try to kill it, and we don't spray these fields with any kind of weed killer. As much as you try to make it go away, it will come back. It's kind of like foxtail. It's almost impossible to get rid of it.
We had we tried doing a cow-calf type deal. And the cow I had, of course, biggest tree around fell on her, hit her in the neck. Obviously she died.
Yeah, darn.
But they pushed her, and we could not, the meat just didn't taste good at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Was she old?
No. I think she was either a first time calver or maybe second. Year 2, 3 at max.
That's not too old.
No.
We don't seem to get that at all.
Maybe it had something to do with it. The impact, I don't know.
The adrenaline release
Yeah.
when she was
Struck.
little could have been.
Because I know that my parents,
How quick did you get her in the freezer?
I was in elementary school.
Uh,
Because she was pregnant, and they kind of did like a necropsy to to see how far along she was
yeah.
in the field.
That's always interesting.
So this is kind of Willows in the woods, where we have another hip campsite, and then I have a big wood processing area here where we do a lot of firewood. I have a sawmill over there that we saw up some lumber on. And this trail goes all the way around. We won't be able to go all the way around. It gets too rough, but it goes all the way around to comes out to the main lawn field over there. But they used to graze these woods with their cattle before me. They raised limousine bulls on this farm, and they were grazing the woods. And I think that's why they're kind of clear around the bottom. So this is our hip campsite. I gotta pick that up.
Go for it.
They come camping here. I mean, it could be 85, 90 out there. It's always 10 degrees cooler in these woods. And this time of year, no bugs, really good. Built a little outhouse down there that's convenient, cute. People like it. Just a pit toilet, basically, but it looks like a traditional outhouse.
No hookups out here, right?
No hookups. It's dry camping.
A bit more in depth, I don't know.
Sure.
Hey, you never know, you might get a sponsor from the...
Wood miser.
Yep.
Wood miser. So we heat mostly with wood in the wintertime. So we process a lot of wood. Probably burn 4 cords a year. And this wood miser, this is an LP40 wood miser, and my dad bought it probably in like 1985, and then my son and I refurbished it a couple years ago. But when he bought it, I used it to build my first house, and I built a log cabin with it right here in Liberty Town, and that was our first home where all of our kids were where we raised all of our kids initially. And then it kind of went through the family, and then we kind of got it back, and I revived it. Now I have a place for it, and I had it all under cover, but the wintertime took my kind of my canvas down. So we'll probably build another little wood processing shed around it. And, we collect.
We got a few trees around here.
Yeah, we got a lot of standing dead wood, so we're not going to run out of wood. And I think I've got, this is mostly red oak here, and I've got some white oak, and over there I've got some walnut down. I think, where is that walnut? I've got some big walnut trees I took down that we need to saw up. And that'll make good timbers. I've sawed a bunch of walnut up and just stacked it in the barn, just for furniture wood or whatever. I think that's red oak on the mill now, and we'll saw it up and make it into.
Stretch out that back.
We'll make it into something, whether it be fence boards or barn boards or something like that.
You don't want to get into fence boards, do you?
No, but I have fence that I have to rebuild occasionally. Okay. So if I've got oak and I can cut it in 1x6 by 14s, you know, I can use it. So it just makes, it's great to have that lumber and that ability. But it's another thing, you know. It's another engine to keep going. It's another battery to keep charged. Blades to keep sharp. It's a lot.
But it's cheaper than paying the other guy to do it.
It is, and it's great to have lumber like that just sitting or stacked and drying. When you need it, it's there, and once you put it in the barn to dry, you kind of forget about it, you know, and you don't really keep track of it anymore, and then when you need it, it's there, and that makes for just a great source. So that, and you know, with all the cutoffs we have, we just make firewood, and we're getting ready to start a little more family firewood processing up here.
Hints is what I'm hearing.
Once a week we're going to come up and split firewood. Me and Harrison and my other grandson split one pallet this week while I was taking care of them. So we split up a pallet of firewood and stacked it up.
Happy daycare.
That's right. So the fire started right there, self-ignited, with a wire that went through the cabinet that was kind of chafed when they pulled it through probably 30, 40 years ago to feed a range. I went from the range to the oven, and I'm thinking over time it work hardened and just got hot right there, and why it didn't throw the breaker, we don't know, but it caught the cabinets on fire, and they were old handmade pine cabinetry, and they just went up
good and dry
like a matchstick. And the only thing that saved the house was the fact that we were out front in the yard. I was doing some excavation out front, and my wife was in the yard, and she happened to see the smoke, and she's waving at me, and I was in the machine. I got out of the machine and came over and looked at the house over here, and I thought, well, somebody lit my pellet stove. I saw smoke going out. I was like, what the heck is that? And I got closer to it, and there was smoke going out of all these windows. And so we ran up here, you know, and the whole wall was on fire, the ceiling was on fire, the curtains were on fire, and it was up into the second floor. And went and got a fire extinguisher, tried to put it out. That didn't work. Went and got I turned around, I told her, call the fire department. It is going to burn down. So we're calling the fire department. I turn around, and she's got a hose in her hand. And I came in with a hose and started to get it under control. But it had burned up through the floor into the second floor. And the ceiling was coming across. But what saved this house is that these are just brick walls that are 14 inches thick. They're not balloon framed walls. And so if they had been a balloon framed wall with a cavity and lattice, it would have gone right to the attic, and we would have not been able to control it. So when the fire department got here, we had the fire somewhat under control. They didn't have to bring hoses in. I stopped them from coming in and breaking all my windows. You know, they did a good job. And I appreciate what they did, but I know I've done a lot of restoration of houses that are burned down, and the fire department and the water is what destroys the house. So they had to do what they had to do and tear down the cabinets, tear out the walls to make sure it was completely out. But it was by the grace of God that we didn't lose this house. The fact that we were in the front yard and were able to get a hose in here and put it out. If we had been out with the cows or in the woods processing firewood, 10 more minutes and we would have lost the whole house. It would have been a shame. So. Casey, you're an airplane guy, right? You're at the airport every day.
That's true.
Much general aviation happen down there?
Not really. The landing fees are
too high.
Yeah.
How about the museum?
I've been in there twice.
Been in there twice. I have not been in there.
It's gonna hit my head. Probably be my first and only airplane experience at a farm.
This is a cool one to have. Make sure there's no sticker bushes under you before you jump.
So this is a 1946 J3 Cub, right? So this is a built in 46, and that was the year most Cubs were built. And these were used in World War II to train pilots and then for observer aircraft. In the war, they would have called it an L4, which should have been painted green. But they built, I don't have the exact number, but they built just thousands of these planes. And now they're very sought after airplanes. This one came out of a museum, and so this is a really nice example of a J3 Cub. So what we're going to do is, there's no electrical system on this plane, so we will turn on the fuel and then keep the mags off. That allows it to makes the ignition hot. We'll keep them off, and we'll pull the prop through about 10 times kind of to prime it, and then we'll go the mags hot, and then we'll start it. It'll probably take 2 or 3 flips to get it started, and then we'll give it a few minutes to warm up. All right, so we'll check it. Mags are off, fuel on, throttle's cracked. Check mags off again, and then we're just going to pull it through about 10 times. Okay, you're going to want to stand over there.
I kind of figured that.
Yeah, and the way you hand prop it by yourself is from behind it. So it's a fairly interesting thing. Probably a better shot from you is right there, because you can see me hand prop it. People love this stuff. So we're going to go mags on. Mags are hot. throttle is cracked, and I stand back here so I can get my hand on the throttle immediately. Take real time.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe.